So it tells me that this is live. Trying out my new StreamYard setup here. Gonna just double check a couple of things. Send a few invitations. I don't know if I'm doing this right or not. Bear with me as I'm going live. It may be on my personal page or it might be on the network page. Kind of double checking a few things. But the title of this is MOTU, Masters of the Universe, Revelation, Spoilers, and Recap. That's what this is. And I'm kind of double checking to see if there's anything going on at this point. I sent a few invitations to a few people. So if you join, then I will do my best to include you and we'll just see what happens here. But man, wow doesn't even begin to describe what I'm truly feeling right now. Wow is an understatement. For this new stream that just came out today. And I just binge watched all 5 episodes. There are still cliffhangers, but if you didn't grow up on Masters of the Universe, there's a few things you got to understand. First off, this was really started by the toy line. It really began with the guys. If you go back, there's another show you should probably go watch. You should probably go watch the Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us. There are episodes for Star Wars, there's episodes for Transformers, and there's an episode for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which really is just the Masters of the Universe. But anyhow, it's interesting to see how the toy line is what kicked off everything else. And this series captured so many of those. I'm sitting back and I'm watching, I'm going, okay, if you consider the name Revelation, this is something that I think is brilliant on the part of Kevin Smith. Okay. If you are not familiar, do you know what the last book in the Bible is called? If you don't know, it's actually a vision by John the Baptist. Or, I'm sorry, John. There's a vision of John for Revelation. And in a way, that's very well represented in this show. It is. I can't even begin to tell you, looking back on the involvement, not to mention if you knew about the mini comics coming up, the mini comic series, that again got encompassed big time in this TV series. It's amazing. Again, I've sent some invitations. If nobody jumps on, my feelings are not going to be hurt. I understand. It's just fresh in my mind. I better get it out there now while I'm considering all these things. Wow. And if you were expecting for this to be a remake, I hate to break it to you, but the remake was already done. That was done in 2002, and it just didn't take off. The same episodes from the 80s from the TV show that evolved after. Okay, I'm jumping the gun because I'm so excited here, but you had the toy line that got accepted by places like Toys R Us, Child World. On the fly, they said, we're making these mini comics that go on the inside and we'll tell you more of the story. And then they mentioned the 2-hour special that was on Filmation, the television series. And that's how Masters of the Universe took off. It got more popular with the TV show, which was more watered down. It wasn't as dark as so much of the comic series. And that's what I love about this, is that Kevin Smith is leaving no stone unturned. The characters that could have been let sleeping dogs lie, he didn't do it with these. Hasn't done it so far. We're talking the return of people like Roboto, Stinkor, even the vehicles, the Land Shark, the Battle Ram. And then we go further into other ones I'm looking at. Going, man, they're bringing back so many of these characters. We get to see Triclops taking on a new position. Again, and also the splitting of the power sword. That's something that happened in the mini comic. It didn't happen in the TV show. It was one power sword. Well, the original story was you had 2. If you brought them together, you put it into the toll bridge, and it unlocked Castle Grayskull, and you could attain all the knowledge of the forces of the universe, started by the Council of Elders long, long ago. And there's so many correlations with the idea of creation to even purgatory to early civilization and early history, ancient Mesopotamia. You can find all these in this show. It makes me so proud to be a Masters of the Universe fan and to see this come to fruition. Now, if you came expecting the central character to be He-Man, you've got a lot of other stories that are not being told here. You don't have Moss Man's story. Well, he's discussed here. You got others like the evil horde that we haven't even looked into yet. I know that became more a problematic figure for She-Ra, but He-Man had battles over there before too. We saw the three towers, the Central Tower, the Grayskull Tower, and the Snake Mountain Tower. That was a huge part of the play sets. So we haven't seen things like the Fright Zone. Is that going to come up in the second season or the third season? And again, Kevin Smith has just done his homework, and this is a guy who grew up with it and doesn't want these small stories to just go unturned. You see things like Spike-Or, you see things like Clawful. I mean, these names that they came up with, they said they came up with names over a bunch of beverages. So the whole toy line was just kind of, the whole conglomerate was just thrown together, darts at the wall, make something happen, and they just nailed it in the 80s. Then you had the fall off, and it didn't help with the movie taking place on Earth and humanizing these guys. But really, we haven't seen. We've seen some interesting correlations between heaven and earth and Eternia. Haven't heard anything about Etheria yet, or even the sister planet of Infinita, but we've heard about this Subternia, where there's so many small stories that just didn't get expounded on that are being talked about in this series. So if you feel a little bit confused, it's because it's a mixture of the mini comic, of the TV series, of maybe even the comic books. I mean, I wonder, because, Star in comics did a series on He-Man back in the 80s. So I just believe that if you were taking all these small particles and we're bringing them together, and we are left on one incredible cliffhanger. Oh my goodness. I wrote my buddy DW and I was like, no, don't do that to me. I have squealed out loud. I have cried watching this, mostly for, memories of my childhood for the nostalgic purposes, but also for characters. If some of y'all have hearts, you probably cried when Dobby died in Harry Potter. You might have one of those here. I sure did. So this was a test run. We'll see what happens with this broadcast. Looks like my guests didn't come by, and that's okay. I need to fumble around with StreamYard a little bit more, but just know I am impressed with Masters of the Universe Revelation on Netflix. Just released today. What are you waiting for? Get to Netflix. Watch it for yourself. We can have our pros and cons. We can debate. We can discuss. But man, this chapter, this Revelation chapter, in the scope of all things, you're not complete. It's kind of like reading the Bible. You're not complete reading the book of Revelation. You're going to be left living in fear if you don't go back and read things like the book of John. If you haven't gone back and done your due diligence of the mini comics of He-Man and Masters of the Universe, then no wonder there's so many gaps that you're going to have that you can't fill. Man, this is a good series. Animation's beautiful. Cinematography, the musical score, it's beautiful. Guys, what are you waiting for? Go watch it. It's Friday night. Stay in tonight. Go to Netflix. Masters of the Universe Revelation. And binge watch it. I don't believe you're going to regret it. If you have, it's just because there might be some unturned, unsolved mysteries that you need fulfilled for you, and who these characters are, what was their origin. And that will take a little bit of work. If you're not willing to put in the work, then maybe this isn't going to be for you. But again, one last thing, wearing my Ride with Dan USA shirt today. He's down 47 states. He'll be hitting his 48th, I assume, around either October or November, depending on weather conditions. So continue to pray and continue to lift him up and support Ride with Dan USA. This is your favorite blockhead signing out. Test run for spoilers and recaps. Very brief recap of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Man, Kevin Smith, well done. Take a bow, sir. Beautifully done.